Welcome to Breaking MedTech. I'm Ryan. This is Cope. His real name's Mark. Nobody calls him that. We discuss the real challenges and strategies and innovations in medtech sales and marketing. We're going to speak candidly and hopefully give you some insights and practical advice to help small medtech companies and startups navigate the sales and marketing side of this constantly evolving industry. Because if they do stuff the exact same way that their big brothers and sisters do it, they will lose.
Yep.
And I jokingly said on a episode we recorded earlier, this show should really be called Don't Spend Money on That. Don't spend time on that.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about something you're very passionate about, 1099s versus direct.
Yes.
And I'm kind of just going to probe you with questions.
Sales.
Sales.
Yeah.
And I'm going to probe you with questions because you've been on both parts of this. You care about it passionately. If I asked you to write a doctoral thesis on it, you probably could.
The corners would be singed from the flamethrower.
Okay.
I need to calm down a little bit, but I'm not going to calm down today. I'm going to get rambunctious.
Okay, so let's assume that everyone knows what it is.
Okay.
But we don't have to go into extreme detail, but what's a 1099? What's a direct sales rep?
Right. So a direct sales rep is you're a small med device company. You hire a person and their job is to get up every single day and go promote, market, sell, pitch your product, get customers, bring in sales. The 1099's job is to bring in sales, but they are somebody that you contract with and typically pay a very small amount and pay them on performance, pay them upon sales. So you tend to pay them more from a commission standpoint than you would a direct rep, because on the direct rep, you're handling their taxes, you're handling their insurance, maybe their expenses, right? You've made a commitment. If you're going to pay them $100,000, they probably cost you $125,000 or $130,000 fully burdened, right? Because they're a direct W-2 full-time employee. 1099 is a contracted, outsourced sales agent who you might pay 25% of everything they sell.
Okay.
Right?
So thank you for the very
and there's good and bad.
Good. So let's go over the good. All right. So the pros of a 1099.
Inexpensive. Number one, it's inexpensive to hire them because you don't pay them, generally speaking, until they perform. And typically you're hiring 1099s who are already calling on your ideal customer.
If you're smart.
Yeah, right. If you're smart. And you can, but that's one of the first things I want to know is who do you call? What's your call pattern? If you're a 1099 and a company's and you're telling them, I call on ICUs, I call on academic facilities, I call on emergency department with cardiac equipment, right? So, and I'm a cardiac equipment company who thinks I'm going to sell in the ER. That would be a 1099 that I would consider because their call pattern matches what I think our customers will be.
Okay.
Make sense?
And what would be a con of getting a 1099?
A simple con is if it's not easy, they can easily want to migrate to another product that they have in their bag, which I hate. Again, I hate that term, but I'm going to use it, that they know they can sell versus yours, which they think they can sell. So I often ask people this: if I know I'm selling $1 million of product at 10%, that means I made $100,000. And you come to me and say, we haven't sold any yet, but I pay you 25%, and it's in your call pattern. I'm like, well, that's interesting. And then I go, oh, but the first year I can probably sell $50,000. Well, 25% of $50,000 is considerably less than 10% of the $1 million product that if I go get, I know I can go get $50,000 or $100,000 of business in my $1 million product. It's predictable. Yours is less predictable.
Okay.
So so they tend to go, hey, I made 3 sales calls. This wasn't a layup. They didn't immediately go, oh my God, this is awesome. We've been waiting for this. My attention span then starts to move to things that I go back and can sell because that's how I feed my family. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a con.
That's a con. I would also say like another pro is like 1099s are easily, they're not replicable, but
Mm-hmm.
they're easily expandable. Meaning, like, if you want to get 1099s all over the United States,
Right.
it is a cost-effective thing that you could make, and you could make like
Yeah.
a conscious effort of like, we're gonna have sales reps in every single state in the next 90 days. You're gonna work your tail off to find 1099s in
Yep.
every single state,
Yep.
but you could do it.
Yep.
You can't do that with direct if you're a small company.
Right.
It would be very difficult,
Yeah.
and it would cost you a lot of money.
Yeah. It would be an enormous commitment before one sale has come in.
Okay.
Good
So
point.
what would be the probably I'd also like, and then the con would be like, well, I don't know how many of those 1099s are going to be good, because that's always like an interesting thing with me of like, well, how do you know a 1099 is good?
Well, and let me back up. Let me debate the good, because that's a term everybody uses. Oh, I don't know if the 80% of them were lousy. Were they lousy,
Or did your product suck? Did you
or was your product harder to sell than what they already had?
yeah.
Right, like that's what it boils down to. Because I've been on that. I've been told, "Oh, you're a great 1099." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I'm selling your product." And I've also been told, "You're lousy for us. We're getting rid of you guys because you're not selling our product." I'm like, "Yeah, it's because yours is hard to sell, and I can sell something else either for more money or easier, more predictable money." And like, that doesn't mean I'm good or bad. It means I'm making business decisions and I'm smart.
Yeah.
Your product is hard to sell, so 92, you could pay me 95% commission rates. And if your product isn't ready to go or doesn't solve problems or isn't a layup for customers, it's $0 in Copeland's bank account.
Mhm.
And I'm not interested in that. And what then, but it's funny when those companies are, "Oh, yeah, we had a couple of them were lousy." Really? Were they lousy? Or were you lousy? Because a lot of times I find you're lousy, not your reps.
Yeah. So all
You're
right.
singing for your supper every day with these people.
Obviously, yeah. So so direct reps.
Mm-hmm.
Pros of direct reps.
They get up every single day in the morning, and their job,
Mm-hmm.
assuming they're actually a good rep, right? But you make that assumption with both, by the way.
Yeah.
1099 and W2s.
Absolutely.
You're assuming they're a good rep. You're assuming they're motivated, but assuming all those things, they get up in the morning, and all they think about is selling your product,
Mm-hmm.
and then they go to bed at night, wondering how they can sell your product more the next day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they become really good, really fast because it's all they do.
So what's a con?
Expense,
Definitely.
and it's an expensive mistake,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Now, both are 1099s are, and they're more expensive as both a failure and a build plan than people think about, because they feel like, "Oh, we're not paying them until we sell."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but your VP is flying all over the place, and you got 17-page distribution agreement, and you're paying your attorney to read these, and they're redlining and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot of expense there that's sort of
There's probably
kind
loss
of hidden.
and there's like loss opportunity. Like
Right.
you don't know. Like if you send them a good lead and then like I'm gonna like you actually send them a good lead and then it goes nowhere. Like
Yeah.
that's a loss
Yeah,
opportunity.
and you can't really yell at them
No.
because they're independent contractors.
Yes, that's
right?
Yeah. Dave Ramsey has a joke about that, and he's like, "Do you know the difference between what they call 1099, so you could tell what to do and yell at employees."
Right.
Yeah, that's you can't you could go like, "Hey man, we're ending our agreement. Hey group, we're ending our agreement," but like you can't. Yeah, you can't yell at them. So, all right. So that's cons.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And the pro we were talking about, or the con of W2 is that it can be expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's really boils down. It's a commitment.
And it could be a bad mistake because it's
Yep.
like, not only are you out 125 grand because you just hired them and they didn't work out for a year.
It's a reflection on you.
And it's a reflection on you, and you just wasted a year.
Right.
Right. So like now you wasted a year and 125 grand. All right. So you're we're starting a new company and you're the VP of sales.
Mhm.
Okay. It doesn't matter what our product is. I don't,
Mhm.
let's not get into the weeds here. You go in 1099 or direct?
I'm going direct. I'm going to hire, and this is my own internal bias,
Mm-hmm.
but we're assuming all things are equal,
Mm-hmm.
which we should, right? I want somebody that gets up every day and all he or she wants to do is sell my product, get better at selling my product, help us learn how to sell our product better, and they live and die and do it. That's a hard personality to find. But I know this: we're in the foxhole together.
Would you hire somebody before you ever sold something yourself?
God, no.
Okay, so and I think that's an important.
Yeah. That is a good point. So like, you asked if what I would do.
Yeah.
Relative to those two, but I would say before I even do that, like, I gotta sell. If I'm a CEO and I'm an inventor and I'm a founder and I'm just the whiz bang kid and I created something that I know everybody's gonna love, and this is what I get all the time. I get this all the time. I gotta love it, but you just all you gotta do is put it in front of them. And I'm like, okay, really? How many have you sold? None. Well, why not? Well, I don't have the relation. Well, you just said though, you just put it in front of them. Why not drop it? I actually said this to a CEO one time in a fit of pique. Why not just drop it from a helicopter on them? Because if they find it, they clearly will buy it because all they need to do is sell it. I wouldn't even hire me. I'd hire a helicopter. I'd hire TC from Magnum PI and have him drop it on the hospital because God knows they'll buy it. It's nonsense, right? And if you're CEO and you believe your thing is so great and you know it's so great and you can't sell them, you shouldn't even be talking about sales.
No, God, no.
Because you're wrong.
And I like, here's the thing is like, I've seen CEOs who don't have sales backgrounds who are like, and they are legit. Like if they're good at their messaging, they know they're like one of one. They have no problem selling it. Right. It's actually the easiest thing for them because they understand the problem. They can talk about the problem. They don't have to talk about features. They don't have to do all that.
But they're rare. But we've seen them.
Yeah. No, it is extremely rare. So all right. So you wouldn't hire anyone until you sold it yourself.
Right. And my best example of that is, and that's why the Shark Tank is so great. When there was like this young girl, she was like 9, and she had invented a back scratcher for her grandmother who had some sort of problem. And she made it for her grandmother and then went and knocked on doors through town looking for people who had grandparents who were struggling with whatever it was. And she comes out on the Shark Tank. She's like, here's the thing I made for my grandma. And they're like, oh, that's so cute. It's nice. And they're like, how many have you sold? And she's like, I've sold 900 of them at like $19 each, right? And you should have seen Kevin and freaking Cuban. They basically started to fist fight each other to like start to invest in her, right? Because she had sold them. Mm-hmm. She didn't just have somebody like a family member or KOL buy it. Mm-hmm. She went out and sold. And they were like, oh my God. So we know it's a product. You're not just a product. You're a company. Now we can invest in you. She had sold them. Now what she needed to do was scale her, right? So yes. So that's what I would say. Like if you haven't sold any and it's okay to not have sold anything and hire a salesperson. Mm-hmm. But you better understand that they are now experimenting with you.
Okay.
They're not replicating.
So
right?
we're talking about realistic expectations. Mm-hmm. You can go hire somebody. You just have to have realistic expectations. And I would almost go, because I've seen this enough and heard horror stories of like, don't go hire I would like, if I was a CEO, right? So now I just fired you. Okay. I'm a CEO. Before I would even hire you, I'd probably figure it out myself and go hire a really hungry sales rep who's really good and direct. Yeah. Before I would ever hire like a senior VP of sales, because how many horror stories of like, oh, we hired a senior VP of sales from Medtronic. We paid them $250,000. We gave them a stake in the company, which really didn't mean anything. We gave them a stake in the company, and they sucked because they hadn't been in the field actively selling for years.
And here's how it goes. I can think of a specific company who I won't mention, who you never interact with. They had $5 million of investor money, including their own. Mm-hmm. Clinicians invented a really cool product, right? They hire a dude from Medtronic, nice guy, and as a VP of sales and business development and all this stuff, right? And here's what they wanted the guy to do. They wanted him to go try to sell, but they really needed him because their investors wanted it.
Yes.
So they paid him like $250,000 a year. And then they spent another $250,000 to $300,000 that first year, him going and trying to sign 1099 salespeople across the country so they could have a salesperson in Oregon and a salesperson in Miami, which is dumb. They were an Oklahoma-based company, by the way. And at the end of 18 months, they had no more customers than when that guy came on. The guy had done a decent job. He'd signed distributors everywhere. And they had spent $300,000 flying him around the country, getting all these distributors signed up, and nobody really sold anything. So now, of their $5 million that they had, they spent over 10% on it and got no sales out of it. And it wasn't because this guy wasn't working hard. He was not equipped to go get new customers, which is what he should have focused on first. But he couldn't because he was being told by investors, well, how do we cover the West Coast? Well, you don't have any sales. I'd find sales where I am right now.
Okay.
Because if you don't do that, who gives a crap who's on your West Coast?
So let's give some actionable advice.
Yeah.
All right. So let's paint a scenario. If you and I were in charge of if we were advising on somebody doing this, you're a small company. Your CEO just made its first sale. Okay.
Right.
I'm going to come at it from the marketing aspect. You come at it from the sales.
Okay. So, first of all, I want to know this first place. Is it one of the investors and he force-fed it into his hospital?
No.
I know. It's a legitimate sale,
no,
right?
It's a legitimate sale.
Yeah, because that's another horror story. But it's a legitimate sale, right? So you hired me. I'm going to go sell. I'm going to go figure out how you sold it there. Go talk to your that customer and say, what problem did it solve? Is it the one we thought? What's it smell like, sound like, feel like? And then I'm going to go out and talk to everybody that is like that place. They might help me. Oh, I trained with this person. You should go show it to her. She's in Philadelphia, right? But I'm going to try to do it regionally.
Okay.
In my backyard, as I would call it, because if I can't win in my backyard, why would I fly across the country to fail there? I gotta win where I live because it's the least expensive and easiest way and most connected way. In the meantime, things I've learned over the past couple of years, I would be prolific on social media.
No, that's
what you're going to do.
Don't steal my thunder.
Right, but that's where they meet, right? That's where that Venn diagram comes together. But I would be trying to get 5 or 8 new customers and learn, is this reproducible? And by the way, I'm kind of paying for myself. I'm trying to pay for myself and show that, wow, we can scale this once I've learned what this process is like, because it's a selling process, but it's also a buying process, right?
Okay.
And so once I have that mastered in hopefully 6 to 12 months, now we can reproduce it and go up. And I'm working closely with you, right?
Yeah.
So that's where you come up.
My goal during that time period for that company would be like, I need to do everything to support you getting leads. And there are 2 ways that you could do it, right? So like the organic way is the CEO being active on LinkedIn, okay? Putting out inbound marketing. So like actual webinars that don't suck, like interesting things that aren't infomercials for your product, guides that are really good. Are you doing LinkedIn lives? Or like there's a whole, I could go on and on and on about stuff that you're doing, right? And some of it is like, some of the most impactful stuff is just the CEO literally posting either themselves or hiring a ghostwriter to help them with, and just putting out content 3 to 4 times a week. Like it doesn't have to be every single day. It just like constantly put out a stream. And then you as the, VP of sales, you're knocking on doors, you're doing stuff every day. You're just sharing stuff like that you're learning, right? So both of you are building in unison, and you're driving leads, and that's organically, right? Yeah. You're spending time organically. And I always think it's really easy. Idea generation is not hard. Coming up with topics isn't hard. Executing it is the hard part. If I sat down with a CEO who was a former doctor and I was like, hey, tell me all about all of these issues that this product solves, or all these things that you see in this world, or like, that's never the hard part. They're just like, well, I don't know how to do a webinar. I didn't even think about doing that.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with someone the other day, and I was like just doing some idea generation with them, and I was asking them just open-ended questions, and they legit said, oh, I could write like 7 posts. This is someone who does not like writing on LinkedIn. And I know, just me asking them questions and kind of probing their brain, they're like, I could write 7 really good posts on that one thought.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So organically you're doing that. And the thing with organic is like, you can't control if somebody in Oregon sees it, or like, it can't be regionalized. Even though I do think LinkedIn might allow you to only share posts now with certain, I don't know if it's,
I actually think you're right,
but it might only be like audience, like people within your audience.
I think that's what it is. I don't think it's regional.
But so that would be, so like, you might get a lead, because that's the idea of it. You might get a lead in Oregon, but you know what? I'm going to guarantee that lead in Oregon is going to be way more qualified than you flying out there. And you should have processes in place as a company to almost you and I were talking about, like, are there ways that you can demo certain products virtually where you're like shipping? It's definitely cheaper for me to ship something in a Pelican case from here to somewhere and back than for me to send a rep there for.
Yeah, and have a Restream account to tell them, hey, open this thing up, and then we're going to jump on. I'll show you how to do it. Now you can do it. Yeah.
And like there, that's, you could do that, right?
And you should be able to do that, but you and I know where you're going with this too. Like, that's if you're getting it from Oregon.
Yeah.
But like, you don't need to get it from Oregon. You don't need to get. Come on through, Walker. You don't need to get it from Oregon.
Yeah.
To like, you can prepare for it.
Yeah, you could prepare for Oregon, like, and I would almost say like you should prepare for Oregon, but
I like Oregon too. It sounds wonderful.
But like you don't have to, like, my point would be, like, when you get a lead from Oregon or Iowa or any of those places,
you don't have to fly there.
Or if you do fly there, it's a qualified lead, so your ROI is probably going to come along sooner.
Right.
And then if you're going to do paid ads or boost stuff, you do it regionally. So like, instead
that's a good point.
And like, hey, I want to boost a post or something that we're doing. We're in the greatest town on planet Earth, Hershey. But like, I want to boost something. Mark's really good in the greater Hershey area.
Call me Mark. Yeah, go ahead.
Cope is really good in the greater Hershey area. He's gonna yell at me afterwards. Yeah. Cope is really good in the greater Hershey area. He's got tendrils up to Scranton, but like, he doesn't know anyone in Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh's a 3-hour drive. That's not horrible. Let's do some targeted ads in Pittsburgh or Erie or Washington, D.C. or New York City or anywhere where he can drive within.
And this is to drive leads to your sales
team.
Person
to your salesperson, and you're just so my job as a marketing person is to work in unison with you to expand your reach, but within a natural area, and then you can grow nationally where like you're focused regionally, and our advertising, if we're doing anything, is focused regionally. But the idea of the organic content is to build brand awareness on a national level, but you're doing it in such a way that is, 1, cost effective, but 2, when you get a lead from it, it's an actual qualified lead, or you're qualifying the lead more than just hiring a 1099 in Oregon.
Which ties back to your 1099.
Yeah.
So, because remember, we're trying to, if we have 1099s, we're trying to make their job easy so that they can sell for us. And if they get qualified leads and follow up on them, they say, oh, this is worth my time, right?
I once heard somebody say, who you and I both know, who said, it's not our job to get 1099s leads, it's their jobs.
Right. And that is the prevailing attitude in the business.
And it's a horrible attitude.
And it's wrong.
Because the best way to get 1099s to sell your product is to give them hot leads. And if you go like, well, what am I paying them for? You could work it into your 12-page contract that if it's a generated lead by them, they get 25%, and if it's a generated lead by you, they get 15%.
Right.
I don't like that's such like, just pay them 25%.
But here's what that also tells me. If somebody's saying, "Oh, what do we pay them for?" Yeah, you probably shouldn't be involved in the sales process whatsoever, because you have no idea what you're talking about. So here's as we wind this up, here's a couple of takeaways that I would urge people to think about. First of all, so if I'm a VP of sales and you hired me, but I'm a sales team of one, focus less on VP. Looks great for me on my business card and looks great for investors, so they feel like they have a VP and they can go bother somebody else that they're investing in. But understand, I'm a salesperson. Like, I have to be a salesperson because I have to sell. First, I got to pay for myself. Then I got to drive revenue for our company. Then I go replicate it. And so it may say VP of sales, but underline and bold sales, right? And it's not to build a sales network. I got to go get us customers because we're on a cash burn. We have to be cognizant of this. So that's part number one. And number two, just factor in how much time you're going to spend. If you're thinking of a 1099, you're going to spend a lot of money flying around the country trying to get people to sign these agreements. And then, typically speaking, 80% of them don't work out. We hear it everywhere. But if you are employing what Ryan's saying and you're doing some good organic marketing and you're thoughtful about it, your win rate might go to 50%. Well, that's something you're going to have to decide. But if it's not easy for them, they're independent contractors. They will independently not sell for you. Mm-hmm. That's why I like somebody in my foxhole, because we're in the foxhole together. I don't want to have to constantly ask them to be in my foxhole instead of somebody else's.
Yeah, and
that's what I think. Like, down the road, it might make sense to go to 1099. I almost think it's inverted.
Honestly, I think it's easier to hire direct sales reps today and employ that tactic than it was 5 or 6 years ago for MedDevice, because organically generating leads is an actual thing that can happen in today's world, versus it was not a possibility even 10 years ago to really do it if you were a small med tech company.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people in med device sales right now who are being put on the street, who are pretty good. I actually think you can get good people who would jump in your foxhole for lower than you think, and with high level of enthusiasm, I would hope, and effectiveness. But I just think, if I'm going down, I'm shooting my best shot, I'm throwing my best fastball. You pick your analogy. And for me, it's me selling and maybe another person who's a direct rep, who all we do is talk every single day. What do we learn? How do we get better? What can we do tomorrow to sell more? And I got a great marketing team who's driving brand recognition, product recognition, and potentially warm and hot leads as he gets going. Yeah. And we're working together because I'm telling you what I'm hearing and seeing every day in the field. Exactly. So do you feel like we answered that? I didn't get too rambunctious.
No, you didn't get too angry. So if you want to learn more about it or pick our brains, reach out to us. We'll tell you how to support your sales team better with marketing and
how small. I've done it a bunch of times. How one or two really enthusiastic salespeople can go help you learn and get your first 10, 12, 15 customers, and you grow together and you're in it together. Yep. And that is the entrepreneurial small company med device mindset that I think wins most of the time.
I agree.
So at least in the ones I've seen. All right. I hope we broke something today.
That's Breaking MedTech.
I'm Cope. He's Ryan.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening in.
All right. Bye.